listen, y'all. It's time for another great show, y'all, on my new show, Truth Talks, and you already know how we roll, okay? So listen, I want y'all to share your thoughts on our trending topics as we're going to share our thoughts and our opinions about it. Head over to Fox Soul right now, and you can also find us on YouTube, right, at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. Pacific time for my West Coasters. And today we're going to talk about black media churches, black mega churches, I'm sorry, y'all, and the secret ballots. So get your truth juice ready because we're about to go live, y'all. And hold on. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Love y'all.
What's up, family? It's your nephew, Willie Moore Jr. What up, Truth Tellers? I'm Willie Moore Jr., syndicated radio host and licensed minister. I know you thinking, hey, that's not Ryan Cameron. Where the hell did he go? Well, the radio king from Atlanta, I am not. That's right. It's your boy, Willie Moore Jr., stepping into the captain's chair with these little shorts on. Come on, somebody. I had to use all I can to try to fill in this seat. While Ryan is really out covering a special story for us, we are going to have an amazing time today on Truth Talks.
Yes.
So it's time for the show that breaks down main topics that people really want to talk about. You need to tune in every night. Get the scoop on pop culture and politics. Now, let me introduce the rest of my co-hosts. Some talented individuals, if I must say so myself. Up first, the Doc Squad is reporting for duty. Welcome the one and only Dr. Viral, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant.
What's up, y'all? What's up, Willie Will?
Yeah.
Listen, y'all, it's Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. You know what it is, your favorite doctor. And I am what? Psychology expert. I'm a best-selling author, president of NAACP, and I am also a co-host with my True Talks family. So we're going to get spicy. We're going to talk a lot of current events, and I can't wait for y'all to hear this. But go in the comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you disagree. Let us know if you do agree. And hashtag some stuff. We want to hear from you guys.
Indeed. Shout out to Dr. Bryant. And, of course, we have your favorite millennial, the one and only Bree Hive is in the building. Miss Bree Renee, straight from the A.
Hey, y'all. That's right, Willie. You know I'm Bree Renee, straight from the A, radio, television personality, YouTuber, vlogger. I also have a podcast with my mom called Mommy and Me. Oh. And I'm just all over your Instagram influencing. But most importantly, I am on this TV show with my fellow truth tellers. And we are doing Truth Talks tonight, y'all, where we're going to keep everything real and keep it all the way authentic. So let's get into it, Willie.
Indeed. Family, it is a big night. There's another host that we don't often speak about, but I do my best to bring her in. Her name is Brelisha DeBelle. So I don't want you to be distracted by Brelisha. Sometimes when somebody does an amazing point, you'll hear a, but that just simply means that's the highlighter in the conversation. Or if we get into it, okay, you'll hear this. She plays as a referee too. Usually it's her and I, and that's okay, right?
Willie, I was gonna say, I'm really sad that you and Berlisha sitting over there, because you know I'll reach over and tap Berlisha myself sometimes. So hold down
I think you need her tonight. Yeah. Me and Willie might be neck to neck.
Yeah, listen, we're gonna have to use Berlisha to the best of our ability. If you enjoy her, make sure that in the comments, when you hear something great, just put Bell in the comments. Could you do that?
Yeah.
Can you feel that in your sha-na-na? I know you can. Listen, we have an awesome show for you. So let's get into trending topics, all right?
All right, y'all, let me put y'all up on game. There's this movement called the 4B movement, and it's shorthand for Korean words, for 4 Korean words that translate to no marriage, no childbirth, no dating, and no sex with men. There's been a surge of interest in the U.S. ever since Trump has been elected, and young liberal women across TikTok and Instagram are discussing and sharing information about the South Korean feminist movement. Look at them. They out there with their 4B, okay?
Yes, Lord.
Deep.
Wow. So look, y'all, many women online express their anger and question, right? What are the next steps that could be taken to hold men accountable and ensure that women's rights would be protected under another Donald Trump presidency? Leading us to the viral 4B movement, where women are swearing off men and encouraging others around the country to join them.
Wow, the 4B movement emerged in South Korea around 2015, per Joo Hoo Judy Han, an assistant professor in gender studies at the University of California, Los Angeles. Now, it's most popular among young women in their 20s. Now, she described it as a fringe offshoot of Metu and other feminist movements movements, the Me Too movement, excuse me, and other movements that arose responding to the stark gender inequality in the country. Now, my question to everybody at home tonight, should more women support the 4B movement considering that we are under a Donald Trump presidency? Ladies, what do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not knocking what they're doing. I think what they're doing obviously has a cause. I'm sure that they have a huge intent behind it, and I support anything that a group of women want to do for them. But I just feel like to penalize all men for one man who has just a clownship leadership, who is obviously misogynistic. There, y'all, I got that word.
You did.
I did it, baby.
Yeah.
And so, but to me, it's like to punish all men for one thing that this one white man is doing. No, what I do think is amazing is how the U.S. has the ability to affect other countries to this level. That shows you the power of our country and how our leadership has to actually step it up in a way that shows we're the United States of America, and people look to us for our leadership, and they look to us for that movement.
Yeah, I do feel like that these women should be practicing the 4B movement, but I agree that it shouldn't be maybe all men. Like, I feel like our black brothers and men, they haven't done anything to be withstanding abstinence or can't get a woman or, you know what I'm saying, engaging with them in that way. But I do feel like all of the women who are married to these powerful men should be backing that. But the issue is like a lot of them so old, I don't think they're getting none anyway. No, I don't think it'll help.
So, ladies, I got to ask you this, but should there be some form of movement considering the type of leader that has now been elected where women can collectively get together? I think a few shows ago we talked about Kamala Harris continuing the charge to at least making sure that what the agenda was for her as far as it pertains to women, should there be some form of movement as it pertains to women at some point?
There should be a movement against Trump. Why? How come the movement can't be specific to him? How come it can't be, this is our movement, these are our call of actions, this is our intention, we are protesting and having this movement for this because of him. I think they should make it very, very personal to Trump and his administration.
I agree. And on that note, I agree with you, Dr. B. And Whoopi Goldberg says that she's just like us and has to work every day on The View because she does not have as much money as people think. She admits to having a hard time like many Americans do.
Listen, on a recent episode, though, Brie, of The View, Whoopi Goldberg said to the studio audience, and I quote, "If I had all the money in the world, I would not be here, okay?" So I'm a working person, you know. My kids, they have to feed their family. My great-granddaughter has to feed her family, and I know it's hard out there. And so the thing is, is Whoopi pretty much are celebrities a working class of folks? Do y'all think that, or you think that they have it easier?
Listen, at the end of the day, expenses are expensive. Expenses are expenses. The more money that you make, the more things you go pick up. So I will actually say, listen, no matter how much money I made, I understood that I had a lot of people that I was responsible for. So when COVID hit and the economy hit and our real estate arm went down in the last 24 months, luckily I was living a lifestyle that I can actually afford. It's so important that people to live off of about 33%, as my dad always told me, live off 33% of your earnings to make sure that you can always be good in any economy.
No, that's true. And I think that people don't realize that as an entertainer, whether you're an actress or even a personality, you don't always work. You're not working all year round. So while you with a stable job, a 9 to 5, you're getting that check every 2 weeks, regardless of what's going on in the industry and in the world. Unfortunately, us as entertainers, you might have a year where you booked and busy, then you might have a year or two where you don't work at all. So there, to your point, you have to learn to manage your money and also, live a little bit below your means, but budget as well and make that money stretch for longer periods of time.
You know, a lot of times we're keeping up with the Joneses too. Okay, I ain't gonna lie to you. When I first got my first little piece of money, that's what my mama say. Shout out to my mama. She said, you got your first little piece of money at 23. First thing that I did is I went and bought me a great big old chain. To my Caucasian compadres, great big old means enormous. So let's get that out the way. So I literally went and bought this chain. I bought 22-inch rims. That was the largest that they had back in 2002. And then the thing was, like, I realized that I was trying to impress people who really didn't care anyway.
But were you just rewarding yourself for all the hard work that you had to do before you got there? I think that it's okay to sometimes treat yourself, do something nice, because even as an entertainer, we all think that it's overnight successes, but we know that it takes 10, sometimes 15, 20 years before you get one break where people really see you. So it's okay to reward yourself with a little something nice.
Yeah, it is, but hold on, let me tell you this. Mr. Mike Tyson, Big Mike T, is returning to the ring on Friday, November 15th with his highly anticipated mega fight against who? Jake Paul.
Sheesh.
The event will take place at Arlington, Texas, and it will be broadcasted live on Netflix, a one-of-a-kind opportunity that makes it easily accessible for fans worldwide. And I'm a fan because I'm sure going to tune into that fight. Let me tell you this.
Yeah.
Listen, I had the esteemed privilege to do all the voiceovers for this amazing event.
Oh, wow,
and I'm
really?
just like really nervous. Mike Tyson says his upcoming boxing fight will be the biggest fight in the history of life.
Wow.
Let me tell y'all this, Tyson is 58 years old. And the last time he was in the ring was back in 2020 during the exhibition fight against the one and only Roy Jones. Now, his last professional fight occurred in 2005, and his last professional win was back in 2002. What year was you born, baby? Never mind, it's all good. He was only 27 years old. And now this YouTube guy stardom is becoming extremely lucrative, and he has a great career. Now, this is just his 12th career fight. He has a 10-1 record, and his first in the heavyweight division. Now, here's the thing. Jake Paul is a big-time threat. Anybody who gets in the ring with so much confidence, he knocked out one of the basketball players, he knocked out an MMA fighter. I'm going to be honest with you. I am biting my nails, ladies and gentlemen.
Not nobody ears, right?
We cannot take 2 losses in 1 month.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to
biting
see it.
nails and not nobody
Yes.
ears. But y'all, in August, and he should be worried because in August, Mike Tyson had a health scare where he felt dizzy and nauseous, and it caused him to postpone the fight between him and Jake Paul. And he recently opened up and said, I went to the hospital. They found I had an ulcer. It was 2.5 inches. It was bleeding. All my friends were calling me like I was dying. I asked the doc whether I was going to die, and she didn't say no. She said, we have options, though. And that's when I got nervous. I just want to get out there and out of the effing hospital bed, but I don't want to die in a hospital bed. I want to die in the ring.
Wow.
Do y'all think that Mike Tyson needs to put his health first and stop fighting since he's 58 and having all these health issues?
Dang, I just think when you're of age and you still have passion to do stuff, I think you need to just do it. I know it sounds bananas. I feel like he can easily just pass away by doing nothing. And if it's him passing away by doing what he loves, I just say go for it, Mike.
Girl, that's going to be so traumatic on Netflix. I'm scared. What you think? I don't want to
go for it.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm always going to preserve my legacy. You got to keep on moving towards other things. I think he was doing really good on the podcast. He had some really transparent conversations with people like Kevin Gates.
Yeah.
He was actually really soft with his approach, even though he's ferocious in the ring. And I think he should have just kind of pivoted to that. This Jake Paul is no joke. We can pretend like he's a YouTuber, but at the end of the day, he's a fighter. All right?
You're going to get knocked up. Look out.
I pray you don't, Mike. We can't take 2 losses in 1 month. Up next, the Mitch McConnell era is over. What eventually led to his downfall? Stay right here. It's coming up next on Truth Talks. Flat Out. Family, we are back on Truth Talks, and as you sit there, you probably say, Willie, you're not Ryan Cameron. I am not. However, my brother is out on the field doing some special work for all our Truth Avengers, so make sure that you stay tuned. He'll be back tomorrow. So we're going to segue from our really juicy celebrity news to what's up in the world. It's time for politicking.
Listen, y'all, Mitch McConnell stepped down today after an 18-year tenure, okay?
Wow.
Which is the longest in Senate history. He was replaced by Senator John Thune of South Dakota, who won a vote by secret ballot.
Yeah, the 82-year-old senator prompted worldwide attention when he literally froze on camera for 20 seconds during a press conference last year. Let's take a look.
After finishing the NDA this week, has been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of
Spit it out, Mitch.
Right. I thought we had a glitch for a second when I saw it.
Poor thing. I
Spit it out, Mitch.
thought
Listen,
something was going to
not
happen
gonna make
to
fun
him.
of my elders, but that's when I think the world knew that there was going to be some changes, but not like this. It turned out recently McConnell was recovering from a concussion. He also had a similar episode the following month, but was cleared to continue working. Now, Joe Biden and the Democrats caught hell for what we all saw as Joe Biden's cognitive decline due to his age. McConnell is like a 1,001 years old,
Yeah.
I think. So how is there a secret ballot to replace a man who the media has dubbed the most powerful man in politics? Where's the transparency? Or is this just how it's done? Is the real
Listen,
question.
you know me, I like transparency, not honesty. I don't like anything done in secrecy.
Yeah.
But secret ballots are common to protect the privacy of the citizens from intimidation. But in this case, the Senate had to vote for a new Senate Majority Leader as McConnell finally stepped down.
Yeah, and it really went against what most Republicans thought it was going to be. They were really rooting for Rick Scott out of Florida, but then they voted in John Thune, and I just think that that's going to be foreshadowing of a lot of things for Republicans in this next term. Like, I don't think it's going to go the way y'all think it's going to go every time.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the unique part is that when he was about to try to run for the presidency, the Mitch McConnell actually said, you know what, I think you should probably do Senate. So who would have thought that this guy would be just put in? Of course, when the gripe has always been because of Kamala Harris coming in through just DEI, if you would, is this the same thing?
Yeah.
Where you just do it and now because of legislation or whatever the law is, it's like, oh, we can put whoever we want in, but we can make that a battleground on our campaign trail to make sure that the world knows that she was not elected by the people. Well, he wasn't either.
Yeah, and he wasn't.
And not only that, you got to understand this is a part of their strategy, right? Republicans are strategic. Trump is strategic. He already, strategically voted in Superior Court judge to pardon him, and so he can get his immunity. And so it's a part of their plan. This is what I was saying Dems have to do. We have to start teeing people up and putting people in place so that when times like this happen, we can take the Senate, we can take the Congress, we can take the House.
Yeah.
It's really important. So, hey, we may not like it, but we're seeing their plan firsthand just go right into just pocket.
They showing us how to play it.
They're showing us how to do it. We just got to start to do it.
Yeah. McConnell has both criticized and protected Trump. But if he was so powerful, like they said, why didn't he stop Trump more during his first presidential tenure? Or is it all smoke and mirrors?
Definitely all smoke and mirrors, in my opinion. Here's the thing, and I hope that everybody can receive what I'm saying. And this is the truth, and just being super duper 100. When it comes to Caucasian people, the truth is everybody's afraid in that world to becoming the minority. And so when that's the underlying theme that we're not talking about and nobody's saying it, by all costs and by all means, they're gonna make sure that we don't become the minority. Here's the thing, I don't have a problem with it, but I do have a problem with the systems and the strategies that you're doing to use it. Because if we were about to become the minority of the minorities, I'm sure that we would want to put some of our people in place. But here's the thing, in America, there is a democracy, and we got to make sure that we're at least doing what we have to do to be as fair as possible.
Well, Willie, we are already the minority, and I'm ready to start some strategy of 2028 when I run for office. I want to put everybody in a strategic order of who's running, who's collecting, who's voting, and what this looks like.
Yeah.
Because it's not for us to start later. We should have been having these conversations. We should have been having our own Zoom board meetings and talking about who's going to what place, who is what office are you running for, even if it's city council.
Yeah.
We got to set up shop in our communities. It's just time, and we can't wait until the GOP gets to putting other people in place, and then we're stuck like Chuck going, well, now we're still the minority.
Yeah, because obviously they've been thinking about this and putting people like this in, what did you say, 18 years ago he ran. So this has been a system and a play that they've been running for a long time. So like you said, we already playing catch up. It's time for us to really catch up.
Absolutely. Look, y'all, the new leader of the House of GOP, John Thune, ran on a platform of carrying out President-elect Donald Trump's agenda. Woo. Although the two men have not always seen eye to eye, Thune rejected Trump's false claims that the 22 election was stolen from him, but clearly said, and I quote, "I am extremely honored to have earned the support of my colleagues to lead the Senate in the 119th Congress, and I am beyond proud of the work we have done to secure our majority and the White House. This Republican team is united behind President Trump's agenda, and our work starts today."
Yeah.
What we can expect from this change, and what can we expect from this change in leadership? Is there anything in the ways of checks and balances for this Mr. Big D Trump?
Well, I think like Ryan always says, the biggest issue or threat is when somebody like Trump has no counsel that is going to tell him when he's wrong or when they're doing things wrong. And I feel like he's purposely electing people that are going to, like he said verbatim, follow out his agenda. So he's just electing a bunch of yes men or people that he bought out. And I think that we can expect to see nothing but Project 2025 and all his agenda roll out slowly but surely over the next 4 years.
Trump is playing chess.
Yeah.
We've been playing checkers. And, you know, when the pawns get to moving, we have to understand what move are we going to move so that we not only are playing defense, but we got to be on the offense. Offense means we are ahead of the play.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, again, we're going to continue to be the minorities that are just protesting, leaning on organizations like NAACP, Black Lives Matter to say, can y'all get a conversation going
help us now.
and bring awareness to the issue when we need to be in the House so that we're not only writing legislation and policy, but we're at the table in the seats saying, you know what, we secretly vote for that policy that works for us to be passed. Run that play. Run that play.
That's good.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
Good. Honestly, let us not forget, in this last week, there has been talk about reparations. There has been talk about what we're going to do in the educational system. And for most people who voted for Donald Trump, who were African Americans, the only thing you ever talked about was the economy. I've yet to hear one word of what we were going to do with the economy. So I hope this fathom plan and agenda for the economy that you voted for was worth the eggs going down 30 cents. All right? Either way, it was clear that the party McConnell built has legacy now solely belongs to the one and only Donald Trump. Thanks for everybody who voted, but you got to be very, very careful with this type of agenda.
You know what? In the words of Halle Berry in one of my favorite movies, she said, you wanted them pom-poms, now you got them. So you're going to have to ride with them for the next 4 years. We're going to see how it work out for you.
And then up next, a no-holds-barred look at the scandals and controversies plaguing black churches. Now, you don't want to miss this. Of course, you know I'm doing my best to be a faith-based leader. But what happens when faith goes down and your actions go up? We're talking mega churches when we come back.
Yeah, Willie.
Indeed. Welcome back, family. The doors of the church are open. I'm Willie Moore Jr. And of course, you're probably looking for my dear brother, Ryan Cameron. If you are really a truth teller, let me tell you the truth. He is on the road doing something really, really special for us that you're going to get an opportunity to see tomorrow. So make sure you tune in. So we're about to dive into the real about what's going on in the black mega church.
Come on, Willie, wow.
And why the church family isn't what it used to be. And how so many Christians have had their faith shaken.
Yeah, Willie, let's get into it because people think that my generation and the young generation isn't going to church like they used to. And it's a lot of reasons why. Recently, we had a mega church pastor on, and it really shocked me when he said that 21% of black people are now reporting to be atheists and agnostic. That's a lot of black people, y'all. And we as a culture have typically been built on, especially in this country, built on religion and faith-based ideology, you know?
Yeah. That's real. You know, when I got licensed, because I'm a licensed minister, it was a really, really unique thing because I just wanted to see people get better. And I know many of you remember what it was like to go to church when you were like real young.
Yeah.
It was a place of worship, a place of community, a good fish fry on a Friday, culture and family. But statistics show that church membership is actually declining among millennials to the tune of 30% of black millennials identifying and religiously unaffiliated. Now, what do you all think is the real reason why millennials are choosing to say, I'm just spiritual?
Because I feel like, well, first of all, I grew up Catholic my whole beginning life.
Really?
I grew up Catholic. We Mexican over here.
Oh, yeah,
That's why your knees when you do that, because y'all be up and down the whole
Yeah, we do.
time. Like church, prayer.
So I didn't get to really praise and worship until I was a teenager.
Wow.
But once I did, it just took over. And, you know, in all due respect to my Catholic family, I'm still Catholic, but it took over to where I ended up sticking to the faith-based or, you know, Christian churches, and I loved it. So that's where I go, Bishop Jake. But I wanted to say that I believe that a lot of the millennials fall back from it because religion, right, has become so compartmentalized.
Yeah.
And religion has become so many rules and regulations of what you can and can't do, otherwise you'll be crucified, otherwise you'll be dismissed instead of delivered. And I think that it's not that the pastors are saying that. I feel like religion in its own tradition has this very traditional way of saying, this is good, this is bad, this is sin, and this is not. And if you sin, you're crucified. And this is the way of doing it. And I always like to say spirituality is still, it's God principled. Everything is God. You can't get out of anything without it being God principled, but it allows you the space to say, okay, me serving God may look different than Willie, may look different than Bree, right? Like God says in scripture, right? I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, plans to give you a good life. And I will continue that until the day of Christ, until I finish those plans.
You better preach.
Go ahead, baby. You know
Because
what
I
I'm
felt
saying?
you doing what
Yeah,
you
I think
So-
that to add to that point too, not only did it feels hypocrisy sometimes, because hypocritical sometimes, because you have these strict rules, and then we saw, I, as a millennial, in my time, I saw so many mega pastors be outed for these big scandals. So I was like, how you gonna crucify me, but you doing something way worse? And I think
Yeah.
that's what turned a lot of us off, because I went like 7 years without even going to church, and I grew up in the church, and it was so many reasons why, but I felt like also, I think a lot of black men, because at my church I realized it's a lot of young black women that are coming back to church, but I've heard black men my age say that they don't like going to church because they feel like black women or their women listen or put the pastor above them.
that's
So
a
they
good
don't
point.
feel
That's a good
invited, they
point.
don't feel welcome. And I think my community is also looking for more than just Sunday sermons now. We're looking for full service that addresses the reality of our lives. Like, I'm very spiritual. Y'all know I love the Lord. And I know I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. But we are out here literally under attack socially, economically, and criminally in this culture. So it's like, how can you help me outside of just making me feel good on Sunday? Like, what tangible things can you do to take us, past that in our community?
No, and I hear you, Bree, and that was originally what the church was built on, right? The church today has more power and influence than it ever has. But the message, I think, has to get back to the basics, right? Unfortunately, in this social media climate, we hear more about scandals, like you just mentioned, Bree, right? Pimping from the pulpit, and honestly, hearing, renowned names like Bishop T.D. Jakes allegedly at Diddy's freak-off parties, that seems to make the news more than anything, Willie.
That's crazy. Did you see that?
I just don't like that, because I love Bishop Jakes.
Me too.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
Whenever there's people, there's always going to be problems.
100%.
Whenever there are issues, there are always going to be people. The one thing that hurts my heart so much is that because you see a pastor who works in this anointing and works in this leadership, you sometimes believe that his humanity is not going to always trump his Christianity.
Come on.
Ooh,
This
that's good.
man literally has to go through the same things that you're going through. He has to go through his wife having an
human.
issue
He's
because
human.
he's not there a lot. He has to go through his children, sometimes never getting the opportunity to see what it is. And a lot of people don't even understand what it's like to carry a mantle of a call. We feel you. We hear your hearts. The Bible talks about Jesus when he would come with the Pharisees and Sadducees, and they would talk amongst themselves, but they wouldn't tell him, and then they'll be thinking something. The Bible says Jesus could hear their thoughts. That's some of the spiritual gifts that they have. And so it's a very heavy load. So the one thing that I understand is that there has been some news and some media about pastors who have done some really unique things, but I want to tell you this, that doesn't make them less of a Christian. This is the time when the body of Christ has to rally around those people. When I went through divorce, I was getting booked every single weekend to be in somebody's church, in somebody's place, until that happened. We are the first to crucify our own.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing.
That's what I
But
was
Willie,
saying. Yeah, they don't
to
wanna
the
be
point though, I
crucified.
feel like the issue is that we can give the pastors grace, right? Because they're human. But then why can't that grace be extended to the churchgoers
But a lot
or
of
the
people,
youth?
but a lot of people don't give the pastors grace. A lot of people exempt the pastors or the bishops from grace because of their statue of them being on the pulpit. And I think that they should not be exempt from God's grace. I just feel like they are human. There's things that, listen, leadership and being human comes with a lot of weight. And if you can't distribute it, then you can't distribute it. And even if you can, we have to be able to give them grace. Really quick to your point, Willie, that doesn't make them any less of a Christian, but it also doesn't make them any less of a vessel for God's word. We have to be able to take the word and not be so hooked on the person. I think that's the problem. I'm not hooked on Bishop Jakes. I love the word and the principles that that he's teaching
and
you.
how he teaches. And I think you're supposed to take the meat and leave the bones. But I have to say that a lot of Christians, especially I would say the older generation, because I remember I grew up in Atlanta, so we were home on the mega churches for a while. And Bishop Eddie Long, y'all know he went through a massive scandal. Them older black women rolled for Bishop Eddie Long. They rolled until that church went down a long path. Like, they were die-hard Bishop Eddie Long fans, and I feel like that's not fair for y'all to be like the same women to be like, well, that's still my bishop, that's still my pastor, I'm still gonna ride with him, but then you'll crucify the young woman who's coming to church because her dress a little too short.
I don't crucify
It's like, where
her.
does the grace extend? Like, how do you get to pick and choose who God still love anyway?
I don't crucify her, but I'm definitely rolling with my bishop, T.D. Jakes, till the wheels fall off. Diddy, I know Diddy. I'm with you, T.D. I'm with my bishop.
You know, when it comes to Bishop Eddie Long, I'm so glad you brought him up. I remember when he was going through all of that, I first got on radio, and it was something going on across the country, and I said, we need to call Bishop Eddie Long. He's the only person that I know with a global mantle. Although tainted, we need to call him. And I remember I called him, and he was like, you called me, man. I really do appreciate it. Now, here's the thing. I'd never been to his church. I understood who he was globally. I believe a lot of times when we go through hell as pastors, leaders, and church leaders or what have you, that is the time, honestly, when we are the strongest because we are seeking God. The Bible says that in our weakness, that's when we made strong. Anybody can be gifted. Anybody can do that. And I think it's an amazing opportunity for us to lean on them a lot more when they are in turmoil.
And Willie, you're really good with supporting like that. But let's keep it real, y'all. Black mega churches are tax havens at economic gold mines, right? I'm not saying all, but remember when Creflo Dollar caught heat for using the church's money to buy what? A private plane for $65 million to spread the word of God? Let's take a look.
I can believe God as long as I want to. If I want to believe God for a $65 million plane, you cannot stop me. You cannot stop.
Yeah.
Listen, I have two words for you, sir. Jesus walked. And I find it unacceptable to use a pulpit to purchase such a lavish item like that. When folks are out here struggling just to keep the lights on with these Walmart prices to damn near living homeless. It's the hypocrisy, Willie. And again, I'm not saying it's all of them, and they're not all black churches. These Joe Osteens and others are doing the same thing.
Yeah, I will say, remember I told y'all I went 7 years without going to church, right? And in that, like around the 7th year, right when I was feeling called back to the Lord and feeling called back to, I tried a new church home here in Atlanta. And me and my friend, we waitress all night at the strip club. We come to the church on Sunday, and we pull into the parking lot, and this pastor lands in the front lawn on a helicopter. He hops out with his Gucci belt on and everything.
It was Creflo Dollar?
No, it wasn't Creflo. It was, I forgot the name of the church here in Atlanta. But it did turn us off. It made us feel like this is too flashy now. I don't feel like a pastor's supposed to be doing all that. So I can understand how it can be disheartening. It's like, okay, what are you really doing with the money? But on the other end, once they educated me and was like, okay, but they use this money and these things to go from church to educate, and that's how they can get around faster to service more people. I was like, okay, somebody got to be checking to make sure that it's being used for that. And when they don't use the money for the church or the community, I feel like that's when it's a problem. Like Joel Osteen, he actually was ridiculed because I believe it was during, he had a fellowship of a Congress of 45,000 people, and he came under fire when he refused to open the doors for the people due to being stranded for a hurricane a few years ago. And I feel like that's hypocritical because you got this big old building that God has blessed you with to help, and it's supposed to be a safe haven, but you won't even open the doors.
That the congregation has bought for you because you bought that off the congregation's coin.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I didn't understand how, for me at that point, it was like, I think that's a problem. Why wouldn't you open the church doors to help the helpless?
Just like Creflo Dollar, my mom donated to that man so many years. He ain't picked my mom up in that jet not one time. We ain't been invited. We ain't went nowhere on that dang on jet. Same thing with Joel. And I feel like, listen, you are there to be of service with that house of the Lord. I don't care what it is.
Absolutely.
Them doors should have been wide open to those church folks. And whatever resources that were needed should have been contributed to that as well.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you got to understand a lot of these people don't take any salary from the church. Dr. Dollar does it. Joel Osteen
don't
does
have
it.
to.
And when it's only 7% of people who are actually tithing, they actually probably give the most in the tithe per person than anybody else in the church, because they don't have to, because they got businesses, right? The church definitely struggles with balancing social issues with scandal, for sure. And even in the Catholic Church, we hear about sexual abuse, which I think for me is one of the biggest parts that really bothers me. As a man, a father, a faith leader, the late Bishop Eddie Long, who led one of the biggest and most influential mega churches of all, infamously was caught. Before social media was really huge, posing half naked and texting/sexting young black boys.
Yeah. I remember when that happened too.
That's just wild.
Yeah. Like I said, I remember when that happened, and it was just like so weird to me because I was like probably like middle school age when it happened, and I was like just now really starting to build a relationship in Christ. Like, you know, you grow up, you go to Sunday school, you do all that, but I feel like once you start to go through and experience real life things and coming to age,
you lean on it more.
You lean on it, and so then, and I will be honest, my grandmother, my aunt, they were members of that church, and so they stood by him. They were like, no, he didn't do it, and then it turned out he was doing these things and got called out for taking advantage of these boys, and it was so sad to me, and it really jaded my perspective early on of like, wait a minute, and it showed me that the more power you give men, and not just pastors, but men, sometimes they tend to typically abuse it. So I think it not only turned off me, but a lot of people around the world who saw that happen in the mega church.
Is that men or is that people in general?
I think it's people in general, men. But I do think that, like,
we don't see women doing that.
But they did do like a study show that men, because of testosterone that y'all have, whenever there is power that heightens at the dopamine in y'all, that something more happens. I mean, just like most of the men who are in prison are because of their lack of ability to regulate their emotions. You get what I'm saying? And so when you look at the emotional piece of it and you give power to that and you inflame emotion, I believe that's why men tend to take the power, which is an emotion, and inflame it and use it in a way that's more grandiose or magnitude. That's just how I look at it.
Well, you know, pride comes before a fall. Right? And that's what I always see. And so the one thing that I've learned about pastors who are no longer humble enough to listen to your number two man, I don't have yes men around me. There's people around me right now that say, bro, you a little off kilter. Like, things are really, really unique. At the end of the day, when I see this type of stuff, it's kind of like it gives people who are genuinely trying to do it a bad name. Because sometimes we forget, with all the cheers and all the yells and all the support, that we're actually not representing ourselves.
Ooh, that's
we're
good.
representing a banner that says that there is a place of refuge outside of where we are. So, of course, Bree, I'll be honest, I'm so sorry that deterred you. I'm so sorry that hurt you when you seen pastors doing things that you thought they shouldn't do. But you kept saying the number 7. And the 7 is a number of completion, which means your exile was already over at number 7. So whatever church you decided to go to, you was about to move to number 8. And number 8 will be your new beginning. And that's what we see now. You're in a new beginning. Sometimes we have to bring negative attention so positive things can come. There are people like you who will not ever allow any of that to happen with the platform that you've been on, because you've seen what it done to you, so you make sure that doesn't happen to each other. I applaud people like Mike Todd, who loves his wife unconditionally. I applaud my pastor, Word of Faith Family Cathedral, my dear brother Bishop Bronner, who's been married for years and years and years. There are so many men that have not been high lit on the integrity,
Pastor
and it's been
Darius
over.
Daniels.
Darius love his
pastor.
wife. But there are a lot of people doing a really good thing. But when it comes to Christianity, because the highlight is so much on the negative, we have to overprove ourselves. But what I've been telling Cass all day, you know, I love God, I still cuss a little bit. I'd rather put it on the table. So I don't deter you or distract you.
Willie, I think the other thing is that there's a big mass that a lot of these pastors and first ladies wear that ends up having an issue. But I just want to say this, right? A lot of us have religious trauma and delusionment these days.
That's true.
There is a thing in the black community called church hurt.
Absolutely.
Which is a term used to describe the emotional, psychological, and religious harm that can occur within a church, either intentionally or unintentionally. It can be caused by unhealthy leadership practices or religious dogma, and I think that goes under the carpet way too much.
I understand. I came in church, I went to church, but I wasn't really a church dude. I went to a Baptist church. You could come in and you could feel the Spirit. The Holy Ghost is like smoke. And you can walk right out the door and run into some cool Filter King smoke.
Right.
Just being honest with you.
Yeah.
So when I came to church, church wasn't anything that we were doing. that wasn't something we was living. That was something that we were doing.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many people in the world know that you can get hurt anywhere. It's just church, you're just so vulnerable.
But I think church doesn't need to be so personalized. You're going to church to hear the word.
Yeah.
You should be reading the word in the Bible on your own anyway, so that you're bringing your own interpretation there. And the pastor is just, our bishop is there just to interpret it, principle, and to explain to you that he's not there for you to be privy to his wife, his relationship, or his kids. Get the word, bird, and get up out of there after you heard.
Yeah.
Straight up. Like, stop
rap
personalizing things that have nothing to do with you. It's not your business.
Yeah, a big conflict for me is the church needs to do better with their healing and acceptance of all people. You guys know that I never had a dad, that I have 2 beautiful, loving moms, actually 3, and that wasn't enough growing up, you know. And if I'm told to have to love all people, you know what I mean? Love thy neighbor, like they say in the Bible by the church. How can you do that when we're not even having those closed door conversations about homosexuality and alternative lifestyles within the church? I just feel like you can't. I think it's unfair to like preach one thing of like loving thy neighbor and accepting all people and treating everybody the same way, but then these people are actually members of the church, but they're being outed or treated badly or demonized.
And Bree, I totally understand. When it comes to the word love, I often think about that because the final commandment that Jesus gave to his disciples, he came in and he said, hey, y'all, I got one more commandment. I'm sure all the disciples like, oh, hell, he got something else for us to do, right? And then Jesus says this, he said, love them like I loved you.
Yeah.
And that was the caveat. So when you think about how Jesus loved his disciples, love wasn't always a pat on the back. It was often, why are you sleeping when I'm asking you to stay awake? Sometimes it reprimands. What I've seen with people is that their interpretation of what they think love is that we're going to respect the fact that you're going to do whatever you want to do. When you're following the Bible, sometimes it reprimands. I understand that a person who really loves you is going to tell you a truth no matter how much it hurts you.
When who God loves, he chastens.
Yes.
That's already telling you right there.
Yeah.
And an
Like,
undisciplined
I'ma
child
check
is
you.
an unloved child. So that tells you right there. And I don't think it's about chasing people for being gay or straight or having a sexual preference. I think it's about, again, delivering a principle for somebody and being a vessel so that God can come in and meet you as a pastor or the leader or the Bible study teacher, and he will meet the rest of the message for that person. You know, not everybody has to come in a certain form. I think religion has to stop compartmentalizing, and if somebody comes in gay, straight, a stripper, whatever, you have to be able to allow them to be in that space so that they can get the word that they need to shift out of that, to shift in it, to do what they're supposed to do. Your job is not to create or modify them. It's just to give them a word and let God have his way with them.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, but my issue is I do feel like it's a little bit of hypocrisy. I feel like if we want to keep what the pastor and his wife doing out in their bedroom out of the pulpit, then we need to keep what the members are doing out in their bedroom out of the sermon as well. I feel like that's the issue.
The only problem is the members bring their business to the church and to the pastor to ask him for wise counsel.
Yeah, I mean, we do have pastors going back and forth in between places like OnlyFans, and I have seen it with my very own eyes, y'all. When I was waitressing at the strip club, I actually was a server for a section of pastors, and that was during the 7 years that I wasn't going to church, and I was like, you know what, that's the problem for me. I think that's why a lot of us feel like, well, they in here throwing ones, they in here drinking, they in here getting dances and smoking hookah, they having them a good time, so how you gonna tell everybody else they doing wrong when they do the same thing?
I feel a little judgmental because when you said pastors in the strip club, I ain't gonna lie, my little judgment went, I'm guilty.
Bree, I'll be honest, that's a great point. Let's take a look at what they are saying about freak-offs.
There is the name of one of America's most famous pastors being mentioned in one of these lawsuits, T.D. Jakes.
Right, like this thing with Puff Daddy, there's going to be a big exposure. Christians have to get themselves ready. It's going to turn things inside out and upside down from what comes about from this.
Wow. That's crazy. Jeez. But listen, we're going to get into it a little bit more when we come back. Y'all take a little rest, okay? You're watching Truth Talks, and we're getting into the role of black mega churches. You don't want to miss it. Stick around.
Talking about my bishop like that.
They ain't say nobody's name.
They said Bishop Jakes.
Oh.
And welcome back to Truth Talks. Of course, my dear brother, Ryan Cameron, he's out doing some amazing work for all of my truth seekers. He'll be back tomorrow. But today we're talking about mega church and some of the great things that the church is doing. And of course, we're talking about mega churches that aren't doing so well. It's a lot that's been in social media, and a lot of people have been hurt by the church. But at the end of the day, if that's you, I want you to know that as long as people are involved, there will always be issues. And if there's ever an issue, there will always be people. It doesn't necessarily have all to do with Jesus Christ. Dr. Bryant.
You know what? This is the thing, y'all. Where does the church stand on adultery these days? Because it looks pretty forgivable these days among pastors. And I ain't gonna front. I'm a big, you know, I'm big on the don't cheat. I'm big on the fidelity and not the infidelity. So, I mean, seriously, man, Willie? I want to. Where do y'all stand with this? Because it's out of hand.
They be giving them grace.
You know, here's the issue. We think that when we go to the altar, that everything just disappears, and that's the biggest lie that Christian men, especially leaders, have bought into. You believe that because you are this guy, that you can go to the altar and then Jesus just mysteriously takes this thing away. It takes so much more help than that. And then here's the thing, and I'm not giving anybody an excuse.
Please don't.
Sometimes when you get in these roles, you start believing your own hype.
Your own.
And it's hard for you to come to somebody and say, I need a therapist. I need help. Because your head becomes deflated. Pride comes before a fall.
Well,
and you don't have the accountability.
Really, didn't God give us therapy too? I feel like that's the problem with these churches too. Like these pastors, they want to be in these leadership positions, and heavy is the head that wear the crown. But you're going to have to go to somebody else sometimes when you fall in a little victim to your own temptations and pressures.
Yeah, no doubt.
Wear a crown, don't wear a crown, on the pulpit, off the pulpit, a womanizer.
I thought you was gonna say the pole.
On the pole, off the pole, womanizer is a womanizer.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you serving God, if you have a bishop as a title, a pastor as a title, womanizer is a womanizer. Infidelity is a part of being not married. That's a single thing. Fidelity is a part of
sin, ain't it too?
Fidelity is a part of a commitment, and commitment is doing what you said you was going to do regardless of how you feel. So regardless of how your penis feels, it should be in your pants when you are committed to a woman who is your wife. She could be first lady or not. It's out of pocket. And to be in a church and go there every day and praise the people, teach the word, and be a vessel, and stand up there and be screwing 5 of the ladies in the front row and have your first lady up there introducing, let's all give it up for my beautiful wife today. That's wrong.
You know what? Also, let me
that
tell
is
you
horrible.
too.
It has nothing to do with the crown being heavy.
Yeah.
But
it's a lot of times these pastors are often dudes that kind of be lame early on in their life. Then they get a little power and position, and all these women in the church are flocking to them. They praising them. So then they try to get that power, that testosterone get rose, and they feel like, okay, let me dibble and dabble into these women that I normally wouldn't have access to.
Guess what, Bree? That means that individual was already who he was. Because let me explain something to you. Seeds are in you. Seeds are in you. Only thing that happens when you get around people or circumstance is they get watered and they get activated. So whatever was in you was already there. You just happened to get activated. Just like I told one of my clients, it took 10 years for him to cheat. She said, he's not a dog. Doc, he cheated after 10 years. I said, no, baby. It took him 10 years to bark. Rough.
Ooh.
That's it.
I was about to say,
it. No, I need
a second Belisha
so Pastor, I'm not, because you barked, so I'm not high-fiving you because you done barked, okay? And my thing is, I'm highly triggered by the whole the infidelity piece, because I feel like that is, we talked about this, and I'm not gonna go deep about our conversation, but that is the deepest deception. It is heartbreaking. It destroys people. It deteriorates you, disempowers you. It dismantles people. And some people, men and women, cannot return from that. I just think that people need to think about that prior to, because you can be a single, happy person and have a lot of sex and companion and be transparent and honest. You don't have to be married and be a person who is uncommitted and committing adultery. That's when it becomes a problem. Men, you can do your thing, but you ain't got to be with her or with me and do it.
Yeah.
Do this shit on your own.
So here's the thing. I understand all of that. And you are absolutely
problem,
right.
Really.
That's a problem. But let me tell you, that is probably the biggest trick of the enemy. Because he doesn't come up with new tricks.
Who?
It is always infidelity.
I'm not a cheater.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about men. Okay. That is the biggest trick. So to my fellas out there, I understand that when it becomes something and you get big, that's when accountability has to kick in, all right? Because that's the truth. He's not worried about your now. He's actually worried about your later. You got to be focused. Family, listen, more Truth Talks is coming up. We're going to continue this conversation. We're going to tap on a few friends. And, of course, Hit It or Quit It is coming up next. The Willie Moore Jr. Show. Flat out.
Y'all, and stay faithful.
family, welcome back to Truth Talks. Excited about the opportunity that we have to hang out with you. Of course, my dear brother Ryan Cameron is out, but he'll be back tomorrow. But I want to know, if you say something that the masses don't agree with, people think you are actually just a hater. But with all the drama in the black church, the unpopular opinion may be the popular opinion.
Listen, y'all.
The unpopular opinion is that you can't be black and gay in the church.
So you gotta pick one.
Yeah.
This is my thing. This conversation about the whole mega church is something that we know. First of all, religion can be talked about forever and ever and ever. We know that, right? Religion
Yes.
and politics. But I want to know what y'all think. I want y'all to go in the comments and let us know, what do you think? And I also want to know, what else do y'all want us to cover about the mega black churches, right? What are some of the things that you see as ideologies that don't fit the modern day churchgoer, or even a person who's spiritual versus religious? Let us know what that means, and we want to be able to get y'all feedback so we know what to talk about and what to cover. We have our opinions. What are yours?
Yeah, I definitely want to say that I think you can be black and gay and Christian. That's my unpopular opinion. And a stripper, or wherever you are in life, I feel like God will meet you there. So, I like you said, I definitely think we need to expand this conversation into a part 2, because I think we need to talk about the gays. I think we need to also talk about, we need to talk about like the influential using God on social media now to gain followers and to gain people, because I see that going a lot.
As a manipulative tactic.
Yes,
Yeah.
to get and using it to like get financial gain with like different products and things like that. I feel like people are starting to use God, and especially in my generation. So we definitely got to have part 2. If you feel like we missed anything, drop it in the comments and let us know so we can bring it up the next time.
And so here's the thing. When it comes to mega church pastors and pastors, please understand, everybody's human, and when their humanity overshadows their Christianity, of course you get in trouble. Here's the catch-22 that I want everybody under the sound of my voice to know. A lot of times when you see people out here and they're doing what they're doing and they're living this life that you think is so unobtainable for you, I want you to know that it's not. I want you to know that God is not pointing at you this way. He's actually pointing at you this way, right? He's literally pointing at you this way. And he loves us not because we're so good, it's because he's so good. A lot of people believe this, that perfect people go to heaven. That's not true. Forgiving people do. And there's an opportunity for you to be forgiven of whatever you've done. But I also want you to extend the same grace for our leaders and people who are doing this and working hard to make sure that you have a better life, all right? We've run out of time, and I hate to leave it here, but we're going to continue this conversation probably on another episode when my dear brother Ryan comes back, because I know we hit some truths that may be a little triggering in your sha-na-na.
Yeah.
And some people in an hour, it just simply isn't enough to cover all the faith things that are happening in the African-American community. So if we hit you in your sha-na-na and you felt it right there in this topic, make sure that you take the time to get connected with us. Hit us in the comments, hit us in the DM, hit us on IG, hit us personally. Dr. Viral will definitely hit you back. Come on, somebody. So make sure that you do it throughout the show, and we'll continue this conversation.
Absolutely, y'all. We are here Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox Soul, on our YouTube, and on Roku. You can check us out. Like you said, make sure you in them comments. We want to hear from you. And thank you all for joining us tonight. Let the truth set you free, y'all, because that's what we're going to do, okay? We're going to keep it real, keep it truthful, and we're going to keep it right here on Fox Soul with y'all. We'll see y'all later. Good night. Good night, y'all. See you tomorrow.